Hello and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I am Eric Miskell with EMS Now. Today it's my great pleasure to interview an EMS company from Lithuania. Joining me today is Tomas Juodžiukynas, and I will allow Tomas to pronounce his name correctly for us in a moment. Tomas is the Chief of Sales for West East Europe for Teltonika. And Teltonika is actually a company that we'll be visiting on our tour here in a couple of weeks, so you will learn even more about them once that begins. But Tomas, thank you for taking time to join me today and to give my audience an introduction to your company.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Yeah, so hello, guys. My name is Tomas Juodžiukynas. Eric, by the way, was very close to being a Lithuanian. Once you pay a visit to Lithuania, we can do some practice and you will get even better at pronouncing Lithuanian last names. So I'm really glad to be here together with you, Eric, now and have a chance to present my company, Teltonika, and to have some broader explanation on what we do, what we breed. So in short, Teltonika, we are currently a group of companies that are in business for more than 25 years. We are currently operating in 5 business units. Most known worldwide are the networks and telematics, specializing in the product development on the industrial network solutions. And telematics are for the GPS tracking solutions in various industries. We have 2 more product-related business units in EV charging solutions. So that's energy, Teltonika Energy, and the telematics for the more medical devices that we currently develop. And then the business unit I'm representing, Teltonika EMS. So we are the manufacturing company, electronics manufacturing company. We are working with, of course, our sister companies, but we do also have partners from the outside. So that's where we are currently working quite heavily. We are building up our manufacturing capacity to be a self-standing EMS company for our partners globally. And yeah, that's short about it.
Tell me about the history of it. How long? I know Teltonika, the larger group, has been around longer. How long? What is the history on the EMS business unit?
Yeah, it's quite natural that we have the business unit of EMS. It was back in the days when we were producing the goods for our sister companies, but we had some neighboring companies come in and asking for a favor to produce because Teltonika has been long known for its quality, efficiency, and a good relationship with the partners on the product side. So we've been asked by our neighboring companies quite a few times to have a production done for them. Suddenly, the network of companies asking for favors grew outside of Lithuania in the more of a scale of Europe. And it was only a matter of time until we understood that we need to have a separate business unit to support our partners and potential partners with the service of electronics manufacturing. So in 2019, that was the year when we started the restructurization in Teltonika, and that's when the business unit of Teltonika EMS was born as a separate self-standing company. And ever since we are growing into the company we are at the moment, so I'm glad to have a possibility to present who we are today. But I suppose we'll slowly reach that place. So yeah, since 2019, as a company, we've experienced quite a big growth in the recent years, especially with the days in 21, 22, when we had some, challenging situation in the market. We did really manage to do quite all right with both experience and also quite reliable database of our partners that we are currently working with.
Okay. So, and talk about the business then. You do for the internal, but what are the major industry sectors that you're serving customer-wise?
It's quite a mix of the customers, or as we call partners, that we are now working with. The major sectors at the moment are the industrial companies, the companies that are coming from industry, connectivity or IoT sector, and we are quite big in the medical devices. A few years ago, we've been certified to produce the medical devices within Teltonika EMS, and that's where we experience quite a big growth in terms of customer database, but also in terms of revenue coming from that market. And what we also see is the defense sector is the one that's currently growing. We have more and more of inquiries coming from the partners and from the potential partners. So we see there is a lot of movement in that area. So to put it shortly, industry, IoT, and medical are the sectors that are the biggest ones, and we see some different ones also emerging, making a bit bigger and bigger of a share of our revenues.
Yeah. And so is that all done through, you have the 2 facilities? Tell us about the footprint and where you're located then.
Yeah, so we are located in Lithuania. Initially, our manufacturing facilities are based in Vilnius, in the capital city of Lithuania. For the risk management purposes, we have a second facility which is some 1 hour away from the main manufacturing facility. So we are currently operating in 2 locations. Both of them are in Lithuania. And the second location has started operating in 2023, right? So almost 2 years ago. And we are already working on introducing a third facility for the PCB assembly, for the electronics assembly. So this is pretty much the timeline that we are following. Every 2 to 3 years, we are already looking forward to expand the capacity for the electronics assembly services. And the third building is currently being built. So you, Eric, together with Dita, will have an opportunity to see how the construction is taking place. It's nearly finished as a building, but we are looking forward to employ it with the machinery, equipment that's still scheduled to arrive. And not only the electronics assembly are the things that we're expanding into. We as a company are really looking forward to grow in terms of vertical integration. So not only we are providing a bigger capacity in terms of the PCB assembly, we're also growing vertically. So quite a recent upgrade in terms of going wider was the injection molding division at the moment, and we've seen that it gained a lot of attention from our partners. We already have a lot of orders coming in that area to support our electronics manufacturing capacity with the box build activity and the injection molding done in-house. So not long after the division has started, we already see that we need more space, and we've started with a new building to equip some, depending on how the progress will go, but some 80 injection molding machines that the building would facilitate. So that's quite a big upgrade to compare to what we have at the moment.
Is that all right there by the main Vilnius site?
Yeah, it's by the main site, the high-tech hill, as we call it. That's where all the manufacturing is taking place, and we'll also have some, supporting activities taking place in the campus. Yeah. So, of the vertical integration, the injection molding facility is currently being erected. We are also going quite wide into the vertical integration into the electronics. And another quite a big investment of Teltonika is the PCB manufacturing factory, PCB factory. So this is quite a huge factory in terms of the PCB manufacturing. It's more than 30,000 square meters of a building to be equipped with only the PCB manufacturing. And this is the first such investment in Europe for the last 20 years. So we're really glad to be a pioneer in the market.
That's fascinating, and I was going to get to that, so I'm glad you brought it up. So will that be to service primarily the Teltonika other divisions, or will that also be able to service the EMS division, the customers of there?
Yeah, so very good question. As a matter of fact, we're currently working out the strategy of the way that the PCB manufacturing facility will be heading. So initially, the goal is to support our manufacturing facilities with the PCBs, so that we are not going to any third party. We're shortening the supply chain. We're keeping the IP under the same roof. Depending on how it will evolve, how quickly we'll ramp up with the production, we still might have an opportunity to support some third parties. But of course, the initial goal is to support our own manufacturing needs for the PCB.
Yeah, but that does include non-Teltonika companies who are customers of your EMS division?
Oh, definitely, yes, of course. Okay. For our manufacturing PCB assembly services, of course, we're looking forward to produce the PCBs by ourselves.
Yeah. I'm
And
assuming that also depends on the type of boards that need to be manufactured, obviously. So,
of course. At first sight, it seems like quite a simple component into the electronics supply chain, but in general, it is quite complex. So yeah, it will depend, of course, on the design, on the product, and many other factors as well. So yeah, for the PCBs that we're going to be using in the EMS part, into the PCB assembly, we of course will be looking forward to produce the PCBs ourselves.
Yeah. And that one is being constructed. Is that on a timeline next year? When is that expected to come online?
All right, so as of building, it's already there. It's already in place. We're working on some minor fixes on the building, and we've already received some machinery in the factory. We are getting some more delivered by the end of the year. So we'll start equipping it. We'll start, setting up the process. And for the time being, the deadline, the time when we are planning to already have our own PCBs is sometime in the Q1, Q2 next year. So quite quick. Of course, that's the startup of the PCBs. We'll experience some, learning curve to go through. So some time for a process to be familiar with us. And as a matter of fact, we've already started. The engineers are already working. The supply chain is already being set up for us to smoother start the production of the PCBs of our own.
So tell me, as your EMS division, there are a lot of EMS companies, obviously in Europe and in the world. What is it that you think that you do best? What is that that Teltonica's EMS division is very good at?
Okay, very good question. That's the question that I hear quite often from the partners and from the potential partners. It's really easy to answer once you have a visit from anybody who's asking the question, because whenever you see the high-tech hill project being erected in the campus of Teltonika, you understand how wide of an investment into the electronics manufacturing Teltonika has. So I suppose the biggest strength of ours is the vertical integration. How wide are we going with integrating the process? So of course, we started with the PCB assembly as a core service. Yeah. We've experienced the shortage of the semiconductors some couple of years ago. And everybody was very loud, about having the chips produced locally, whether it's in Europe or the US. We have the CHIPS Act both in the US and in Europe at some extent. But somehow people tend to forget the PCB being one of the critical components in the supply chain of electronics. And that's at one end, it's part of the vertical integration. At the other end, it's management of the risks. I don't want to plan anything for the future, but having the PCB of one of the most critical components sourced somewhere else compared to having it produced in-house with your electronics manufacturing company, I suppose it's a very huge difference. And that's where the vertical integration comes with an advantage, not only having everything done under the same roof, but also brings many related advantages when it comes to supply chain, when it comes to intellectual property rights. Okay, so we don't need to share any information with a third party. So I suppose that's the main strength of ours. And at the same time, Teltonika EMS, as we are a privately owned company, so we are really glad to be one step ahead with the market. And we are really not waiting for some big customer to come and join us. We can make the decision to invest into some activity and then come and offer our partners with the solution rather than vice versa and always catching up with the partners' needs. Yeah. So we're really trying to listen to what the market is needing. We're really trying to see where the trend is going. And we're always making a first step to make our presence in the currently very competitive market ahead of the other competitors.
And that's an excellent distinction you draw there, because I see that with other EMS who are a business unit of a larger entity have that same kind of strength and ability available to them. Now, you touched on a few things there that I wanted to kind of follow up with too, and you mentioned that the chips shortage here a few years ago. But the industry has obviously gone through some tough times over the last few years. I think the two biggest challenges often cited have to do with materials, right? And we went from material shortage to material overhang, it seems like. How are you experiencing that? How has Teltonika been able to manage through that?
Okay, so to begin with, the first portion of the issues that we faced was getting the materials to us. So yeah, I was at the time working in the project management, so I've seen the situation in the first eyes. So I suppose what really helped us was the experience in the market, having many contacts with the distributors, with the brokers, with the third parties who were, looking for the solutions to get the materials. There were some even silly situations on the ways to get the components, but I suppose our growth during those years did really show that we were doing something right. We did really have very good relationship with the suppliers. Not always you were able to get whatever you needed, but you were able to get what you really were really looking for. So I suppose managing the situation during the shortage was really, at some extent good within Teltonika, and that's what we see from the testimonies of our partners. On the other side, yeah, there are no news that the companies in our market are currently experiencing or used to be experiencing the excess materials on the stock, more of a components than the need, and the clients were already stocking the products of their own. So I suppose that's more of an issue of the last year's, beginning of this year's. Now we see that the market is starting to get on the somewhat normal situation. We see the orders are getting back. Companies are working on introducing new products into the market. So yeah, we still have some, with a wide variety of partners, we have some different situations. But overall, I would say that we're not yet at the stage where we only have the components that we need for, but it's getting to somewhat manageable levels.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. And so the other issue that's often been challenging is that about workforce, available workforce, labor availability. With the growth that you're experiencing there, how is it within Lithuania? How is the labor market there?
Yeah, so it's no secret it's getting tougher and tougher to attract the people to join Teltonika. However, there are a few things that are really coming in handy. One thing I would like to mention is that Teltonika is quite a well-known brand within Lithuania, within the area that we operate. So we are again winning over the competition of the similar manufacturing companies when it comes to attracting the personnel. And that's especially useful when we're speaking of some, engineers, some more advanced skilled labor. When it comes to people for the manufacturing itself, one of the reasons why we had the second manufacturing facility a bit outside of Vilnius, some 1 hour away, to also make use of the labor available there in more regional area. So there are some challenges that we're trying to face. At the moment, we don't see them as big as threatening to our growth. However, we're looking to at least triple the people who are working for Teltonika to reach the 6,000 people who would be working with the Teltonika up by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. And this is quite a huge growth. So we see that we need to take action now to secure the personnel needs of ours in 2-3 years. And that's where various programs with the universities, with the governments are taking place. So we have our academy as well, who is also helping some people to come and join Teltonika at first into the academy to gain some skills into the electronics, and eventually grow into an operator or an engineer. So yeah, in the long run, we see that we already need to make an action today so that we get the fruits in some couple of years. But of course, we might come to a situation where we'll also be looking for some, especially skilled personnel to join us from outside of Lithuania, and it will open bigger pool of a personnel. At the same time, you're competing in a more global scale. But I suppose that's where the companies our scale are really growing into.
Okay, very good. Now, I want to just touch on a couple other issues here. I want to be respectful of your time, but you're talking about the growth there. So tell me about one of the trends impacting the industry and often talked about is that of reshoring, manufacturing coming back from primarily kind of Asia, China, back into region, and we're getting much more into kind of regional manufacturing again. How are you experiencing that in Lithuania?
Yeah, we do see. Well, Our market is primarily Europe, and we see the trend for already a few years, especially after the component shortages, also after the geopolitical situation is changing in the Far East and other regions in the world. So we see that the movement has already started. There are more and more of companies who are, at first they were investigating, but now they're taking action into making the transition of the nearshoring versus the offshoring. And it's really interesting to see how different cases evolve, because we have a few instances when the company who was working with the Far East in terms of the manufacturing, coming back to Europe, asking a few suppliers to take a look if we could reach a competitive pricing. And since Teltonika is quite well automated, has quite well automated and robotized manufacturing facilities, we see that transferring the production of the goods and implementing more of automated processes does really help us into making a competitive offer for the companies. And we've already got some instances when the pricing was better than what the companies used to have in the Far East.
Wow.
So it's really a matter of investigation. It's really a matter of understanding the needs of our partners to have the capacity, and then to unite those two things and look for creative solutions, how we can work together to find the benefit that suits both parties.
Yeah, no, excellent. And as far as sustainability, that's been a big move, I know, industry-wise, and I think a lot of that started within Europe, as a matter of fact, right, with the European OEMs. Speak to that and the sustainability within Teltonika, the practices.
Yeah, of course. So we have quite a few programs, if you can call it like so, that we follow in order to reduce our global carbon impact footprint.
Yep.
And perhaps the most important thing to mention that it's not something we do for the partners, for the OEMs, or for suppliers of ours. It's something that we do for ourselves, and that's where it has to be in the culture of the people who are working in order to make all those changes happening. So the most visual one for the outside watcher is the electrical. The electrical power that comes to our factories are all green. Portion of the electricity that we consume, we are producing of the solar panels that we have on the roofs of our manufacturing facilities. We will continue with the same approach in all the buildings that we are building. And we have all the programs in place for, sorting the trash, making the wastewater to close to zero, and all the other things. And I would also like to pinpoint the area that environmental protection is not only about the environment, but it's also about the society, about the people that are living in the environment. And that's where Teltonika is also quite well established itself. I suppose at the moment more on the Lithuanian scale, but it's growing into the more European and global. We are really looking forward to supporting the community that we are living in, that we are working in. And we have many programs to support, whether it's a community somewhere remotely that is looking for renewing some, community center or something like that, or whether it's some subsidies for the students who are in the market, who are currently studying, and they would need, some scholarship. Yeah. So these are the programs that we have in place, and I suppose the owner of ours is really very interested into giving back to the community. So I would argue that's also a very big step into not the environmental protection, but also on the making sure that the environment is very attractful for the people, for the society who is living in the environment.
Yeah, and I think that those initiatives also support you becoming an employer, a desired employer for people in the area when they see that. So it all kind of sustains the overall mission of the company.
Yeah, correct. Of course, that it's not a direct goal of making subsidies to not the subsidies, but some how you call
investment there, yeah,
investments to the society. But that's a very good result of that as well.
So tell me, you said that you were a program manager. Now you're in charge of the sales in Europe. How are OEMs changing? I mean, during these last few years, they've been trying times, right? OEMs used to be very kind of autocratic, but over the years, they've become much more kind of, and I like that you refer to them not as customers, but as partners, right? That speaks to that relationship and that kind of mutual dependence. How are you seeing your customer engagements changing?
I suppose they're becoming more of a liberal cooperation with two partners instead of a supplier and buyer relationship. That's what we've seen a lot in the last 5 years when we had many different situations that we need to find a common solution. Not only the supplier solving all the issues and managing the supply chain, but it's an action of both parties. So that really helped into making a bond stronger. Overall, I would say that here in Europe, we still have quite a big presence of the companies who are doing the production in-house. That's something that's starting to change, not at the extent that we'd wish for, but I suppose it will still take some time for the companies to understand how much of a benefits they are getting by outsourcing versus producing in-house. So that's kind of a trend that you can already start seeing companies in different locations taking this action. But yeah, as you mentioned before, the biggest change, the biggest tendency we see is the nearshoring opportunities that we are currently discussing mostly with the OEMs.
Yeah. So 2024 has generally been a hard year for EMS for a lot of reasons we don't need to get into. As you look forward to 2025, what's your opinion about how EMS business will develop next year?
Very difficult question. Of course, I wish I knew. Would make a huge money of that. But overall, I think that we would get somewhat on a more stable ground, hopefully, with all the shaking situations that we've experienced in the recent years. We get to somewhat normal. By the somewhat normal, I mean the new normal. We will not get to the situation we've been in 2019.
Right.
But I suppose we'd be more able to plan for the future. We'd have more visibility about what's going to take place in half a year, and that would help us, plan our steps ahead. So I'm personally really looking for more stability, and I suppose it really depends a lot on how the world itself evolves. But yeah, looking forward to having somewhat stable and calm year in the electronics industry.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like Teltonika is planning for success in there. You're making some very large investments in your capabilities and your facilities. That build bigger facilities, you got to fill it with equipment. So there's equipment and CapEx spending that goes with that. So it sounds like the overall feeling must be optimistic for the business that you're in.
Yeah, of course, indeed. We already have some good payments done for taking up the initial part of the capacity that we're growing into. But of course, there is some portion that we're looking forward to adopt during 2025, 2026. It's not the end. We're really looking forward to grow. We have the roadmap for investment up until 2030. So what we've discussed now is already taking place, is already having the manufacturing facilities being built. But the goal or the actions are already planned for years to come. And one of the more advanced investments that we are looking forward to grow into is the manufacturing of the semiconductor business. So we've already started some small steps. We have a team of engineers who are already working on the design phase of the semiconductors. And we're really looking forward to having a bit of a production taking place in Lithuania, starting slowly with packaging and testing, but eventually to also produce the wafers ourselves. So the plans are really huge for the future. And of course, the core business will always be the electronics manufacturing, the PCB assembly. So I suppose in 2-3 years, we'll already start thinking about increasing capacity to what we are currently have.
Yeah, that is excellent. That is excellent. So you're going to Electronica, as is the whole industry is going to Electronica here in November, we hope.
It feels like.
You will be in the main hall, Hall A1, where most of the EMS companies are. I think it's booth 637.
Correct.
Is that so? I would encourage people to come see you there. Is there any message or anything relative to Electronica that you would like to share?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to participating into Electronica. It will be the majority of Teltonika sales that will be in place. So there will be definitely somebody who would love to have a quick chat or have a discussion about the plans of Teltonika, how we look at the moment. So we're really looking forward to hosting all the people who are interested in the EMS and the manufacturing business, but also the PCB, the plastics, anything that you might have an interest of, please come by, say hi to us, at least have a bit of a chat with Teltonika. And, it all starts with a small chat, and nobody knows how it will evolve. So, yeah, really looking forward to having more of a people to have a nice conversations with in the Electronica.
Yeah, I think you hit on the main benefit of these shows, which is the networking and those conversations that begin in a small way, and you just never know where they may develop, and opportunities persist. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Tomas, thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to, I'll meet you in person in 2 weeks here before Electronica, and then we'll also look forward to seeing you at the show in Munich. So I think this has been excellent. I think it's been very informative. I think you work for a very kind of a forward-thinking, exciting company in the industry. And I'll be watching with great interest as this all evolves, as you said, throughout the rest of this decade, it sounds like.
Yeah, Eric, thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here and having a discussion with you. Looking forward to host you in Vilnius to have a walk around. And as we discussed before the interview, it's really interesting to see how the people faces are changing when they see everything in the live. When you see all the buildings, all the construction taking place, and how huge of investment there is. So looking forward to see your face when you see it the first time.
Very good. Very good. Tomas, again, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.